What up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is going to be one of my first reviews that I normally don't do because I always review latest films that came out in recently. But this is going to be one of the films I'm going to be reviewing old films that are prior to the 2020s. And this is going to be the horror films review that are going to be during the spooky season. I will review as much as I can. I don't know if I'm going to be reviewing it at like a lot of them, but I'll do my best. But this is going to be one of my first reviews during the spooky season. And this is going to be the original Blade film, which this movie came out in 1998. And I remember watching this movie when my brother rented it at the Blockbuster and he showed it to me. And I remember being blown away by this movie because this was during the time when we didn't have a lot of comic book movies coming out. And this was during the fallout of the Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin. And the comic book genre was pretty much dead. And 99% of the people thought that Blade was just another action flick Wesley Snipes movie. Most of the people didn't even know that this was a Marvel film, that this was based on the comic book called Dracula, and you had Blade as a character. And when the studio decided to do an adaptation of this movie, they decided, like, you know what? Not a lot of people are going to compare to other comic book characters, and it's a little bit of safe, and you can definitely pull it off. And I thought this movie was amazing. I still love it to this day. I watch it every once a year. I own the 4K Blu-ray copy for the original Blade, and I thought Wesley Snipes really embodied the character, made it his own. Even though that there weren't a lot of that there were never a lot of actors portraying Blade before him, and there was nothing to compare. He really owned that character, and he made it his own version of it. And I thought it was an incredibly well directed. I mean, like I said, 99% of people didn't even know that this was a Marvel film. Mostly people thought this was an action blockbuster film with Wesley Snipes with the vampires in it. And I thought that the writing itself was incredibly well written. The opening of the blood shower scene where Blade shows up and annihilates a lot of the vampires in this movie, it was incredibly well choreographed. It was done practically. The camera work was great. Wesley Snipes was really rocking the shit in this one, pardon my French, but I thought it was awesome. The sword fights, everything, the techno music, it really got my blood pumping. Every time he's about to show up, every vampire fears Blade. He's the Daywalker. That's what he's known as. He's a half-breed vampire who is half human, half vampire. He has all their strengths and none of their weaknesses. And he uses it at his advantage. He hunts vampires for a living all of his life. His mother died died when she was pregnant with him, and she was bitten by a vampire, and that's when he became half a breed. She died, but he lived. And I thought it was incredibly well story told. That a lot of the people in the world are run by vampires, and you have corrupted politicians and cops who are having them in their back pocket. And I thought that the banter between him and Abraham Wessler, that's played by Kristofferson, I thought that he was great. A great father figure and a mentor to him. He's basically his Alfred to Batman, if you really think about it. And he's playing the old, grumpy, smart-ass character who is making all the weapons for him and give him a serum that will suppress his thirst for blood, because that's his biggest weakness. He may have all their strengths and other weaknesses because he can't die from the sun. He can't get hurt by garlic, and or silver, because that's one of the vampire's greatest weakness. But he did inherit the bloodthirst and his urge to kill. And Abraham always makes the serum for him to suppress it, but his body's constantly rejecting it. And he's trying to find a way to find a cure for the vampire. But the problem is that he was born with it. It may work on the people that were bitten, but for people who were born with it, it won't work on him, because that's a part of him. And at least that's what the film is presenting to them. And the woman, Karen Jensen, who is a doctor and is a hematologist, she helps team up with Blade to help take down the vampires. And I thought that the banter between them was great. I loved it. I loved how grounded it was. I loved the way it was shot and the way it was filmed back in the late 90s. And those were one of those action flicks that we're probably not going to get as much now today. Wesley Snipes, again, just really embodied the character Blade. He's best well known for that character. He owned it. The action set pieces and the fight choreography was incredibly well done. The horror elements was definitely delivered. And Deacon Frost, as played by Stephen Dorff, I mean, say what you will about him, because I know he says a lot of controversy and a lot of stupid shit during press tour, but I thought him embodying Deacon Frost as the main villain was great. I love the conflict between him and Blade. Deacon Frost is all about wiping out the human race and let the vampires be the next step of evolution. And even though he was more turned, he tries to overthrow the council, who are born and bred vampires who are trying to like have everyone blending in and hiding in plain sight. But Deacon Frost is like, no, we're vampires. The humans are our food sources, not our allies. And he overthrows the council and tries to take over everything. And I thought that the conflict between him and Blade and the scene that they had together was great. I thought he was very menacing and some of the force to be reckoned with. He's not just some another one-off villain and another dickhead villain that we've seen countless times before. His performance was very believable. And yes, the movie is very graphic, and because it's an R-rated film, but I thought it worked. And yeah, the parts of the third act of the CGI with Deacon Frost was a little bit jarring, and it didn't quite hold up, and it was a little outdated, but the third act still ended strong. Once Blade gets into full force, you're just ready for him to mess some people up. And the way that they play the techno music was incredibly well done. I ate it up every time I watch it. And I thought it was very well written by David S. Goyer, which you may have known him, that he's one of the writers of the Dark Knight trilogy with Nolan's film and Inception. He written Man of Steel. And overall, this is one of the best films, one of my favorites of all time, that still holds up to this day. Even the 4K transfer on the Blu-ray copy was I thought it was a very well transferred, in my opinion. Hope they one day re-release it in theaters, because I want to see this on the big screen, because I've never had a chance to, because my first experience was seeing the film on VHS when my brother rented it at Blockbuster at the time. Now, have you seen Blade? What did you think of Blade? Did you really love it as much as I do, or were you someone that was not made for you and you didn't like it? But I don't know anyone out there that does not like the original Blade. You got to be out of your mind and might be smoking crack if you did not like the original Blade, because this movie is peak cinema. Jump down in the comment section below and just leave me your thoughts, and give it a thumbs up on my video if you really like this review, and go and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I will do as much as I can to review horror films that came out like years ago during the spooky season. I probably won't be doing a lot, but I'll do as much as I can, and I would really appreciate your support. And if you want to follow my social media platform, the link tree will be down in the description down below. And I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from.